their second chance. Michigan TCU at 4 and Georgia Ohio State at 8. Saturday, December 31st on ESPN.
But a magic carpet ride with someone who was here. Oh, yeah. Wonderful time. Show of the year. Experience it anyway.
Georgia Ohio State at 8. Saturday, December 31st on ESPN.
But a magic carpet ride for someone who was here. Oh, yeah. Wonderful time. Show of the year. It's about hatred and pain. Oh.
See you guys for anything, Travis. I'm very sorry.
We have time. I would tell her it's going to be the week of the 26th, and if we get it done sooner. I think we're waiting. Yeah, I think. Well, no, when you go to the one in Yorktown, you just go right in. It's part of their optimal.
Are you up there too?
Well, that's the building surgery. Props. Good. You home? Yeah. Oh. Can you look on my on the counter where I keep my stuff? Is there something there for saying where to go get the COVID test or whatever? Or was it Yorktown? I thought they said it was in York.
Going to.
Okay.
Jane, could you pull up the agenda? So can we have it's called a meeting to order, right? And we're gonna review the minutes from the meeting of December 9th. Did anyone print them? I did not. We will print the minutes from the meeting of December 9th until our following meeting. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that, Jan. I tried to send them out digitally by text, it doesn't work.
Right.
So then we're gonna move to the certificate of appropriateness notes, those that were approved last time. 204 Warren Street. Do we have anyone in person or online from 204 Warren Street? This does not have a condition.
No, this is a hanging wooden sign with a new bracket. Design.
Paul and Miranda, all in favor? Aye, great. 558 Warren Street, another sign without conditions, right?
Love it.
Okay, Hugh and Miranda, great. 52, okay. 526 Warren Street, Union Street, I'm sorry. Rear deck replacement, no conditions.
Yeah, love it.
Miranda, Paul, great. All in favor. And then we have our client here from North Sixth Street, 43 North Sixth. First today, not
Oh,
last.
great.
Okay, so you're to show us the amended drawing of the porch, railing and stairs, and you're gonna update us on the status of your garage if there is anything. But I do have a C of A for you for the porch, assuming that it's as we described.
Yes, so to report back and forward, as predicted, it doesn't look like, I do have some photographs that I want to show you guys. It doesn't look like the corner is a written structure. However, my client had decided to, a porch there, so
Okay,
that's,
do you have a drawing of what that's gonna look like? Or is it just as you proposed it last time?
yeah, it's.
Can you show it to us again, please?
I believe you guys.
Yeah, I have some pictures here.
It's the drawing, right?
Well, I have photos, which, you provided me.
Right.
I can,
I do have, the recently, or more updated photos, if you like to send it to.
let's see how we can do with these and then.
Okay, no problem.
I recall the only issue or the only issue that we had with it was that the new porch doesn't have this pediment as the original does, right? And it doesn't have the sides. But I felt like I felt the consensus or the sentiment of the commission was that the pediment was more desirable than not.
So the drawings from last week I have here,
Mhm.
if that's helpful to you.
I thought what we discussed was.
They- Oh, yeah, okay. The client has decided to, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The client has decided to keep a covered porch.
Correct.
So in the proposed drawing that you have, doesn't have the sides. Right, so that's different from what's there, and it doesn't have the pediment, so it's just an arch, a peak arch.
Right, so basically, we're getting rid of the side walls.
Yeah.
And instead of metal railings. We're going to be doing just wood.
So it's gonna be open rails on the sides.
Correct.
Right, and the roof line stays the same, is that correct?
Correct.
Hold on, the roof line doesn't have, I think it's important to know, does not have this triangular piece. This drawing does not have this right here.
Right.
So it's just a roof with nothing filled in. Going across.
Right.
The
Um,
big piece in the picture.
And it's, so that's a different.
This is gone. It's
Yeah,
just the
so-
cover.
Right, so it would just be the roof, but if that represents any sort of delay, we'll be more than happy to.
Does anyone want to just like approve it with that pediment? Does anyone care?
Well,
My personal opinion is that it looks better with the pediment.
So do I, it looks more
Then let's
structural
approve
than.
it as is with the pediment, and we'll make that a condition, and you'll have your certificate
Wonderful.
of appropriateness. Unfortunately, not until our. Hold on. Take just a minute to say with the pediment.
Well, that was demolishing and not.
That was for removal of.
That's
the
removal of-
fourth Stairs railing and replacement of new stairs and railing.
But it doesn't have the cover on it. It's possible to amend that with the cover
So we show,
and give it to him.
we can just delete condition one applicant. Yes, we can amend it. Here, I can amend it, send it to Jan, but I'm confused. Is this, you're no longer demolishing, you're restoring and adding
No, it's
things?
still being demolished. It's being replaced. It's being replaced very similar to what's there,
Okay.
except there's no side. It's as drawn here. There's no side.
Move towards this pediment as shown on, what are the plans dated?
let's see, there's nothing in the date.
Okay, can we have them write something on it? Close.
Okay, great.
Similar to
So.
You okay, Frank?
Just,
yeah, where it's a date 12/16.
So in his front porch redesign, can we call it that, or removal and redesign
It's removal and replacement.
and replacement?
Uh-huh. All right. Thank you.
great, thank you.
As presented with
Replace it as proposed.
As proposed in the design
That he just.
with the pediment that he just did.
Okay, hold on.
There's no condition.
Well, there is a condition because the proposal doesn't have the pediment. So it just retains the existing pediment style.
Covered.
Okay, we'd like to take a vote.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve? Great. Okay. Hugh and Paul,
Yes.
on favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for being so flexible. Good luck with your porch. Do you have an update for us on the garage?
Yes, I did. I was provided with a list of requirements by code enforcement, and we are currently almost there. So I wanted to know if there is a way for me to still keep this application open and report back to you next month regarding the garage.
There is, I mean, I would tell you, we're probably gonna need to have a public hearing on that. So there'll be at least 2 weeks. Once we get the final proposal from you, we're gonna have at least a 2-week delay.
Okay, yeah. I just need a little bit of time because it does take surveys and whatnot.
Okay, I think that's fine. We can come back when they're ready, right? Oh, wait, hold on, sorry.
When you say keep your application open, if they don't get the approval, then you have an open-ended application, that you shouldn't do that.
So shall we just find this one completed and ask them to submit an amendment for it? What do you want? What's the process?
Well, the application that gets approved is for the porch,
Correct,
and the porch only.
but the application did include the garage originally.
So what really would happen, I know how we do, is we'll take the application and attach it to the C of A. So the only thing that's approved on it is the porch.
Correct.
That way that application is now filed and completed. So anything that takes place after that will have to have a new application. Because if you don't, and if you don't get approved by the zoning board, and then we got this thing out there that.
I'm so sorry, our process requires you to submit a new application.
No problem.
And from the time we review that application and vote on its completeness, I'm pretty confident we'll need to have a public hearing, and that'll be another 2 weeks, so you have plenty of time.
Okay,
But
perfect.
now you have all the time in the world, because you don't really need a new application.
Perfect.
Best of luck.
All right.
Please preserve all those beautiful details on that house, everyone in the town is really excited about.
Yeah, for sure. We get people taking pictures of it
Yeah.
all day long. Yeah, we're gonna try our best. Thank
Okay,
you so
thank you
much.
so much. And if you need our help with anything, don't hesitate to come back. Okay,
Oh, great.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
like, if you want opinions, because we got them.
Excellent. Thank you. Good to know.
All right,
Have a nice
thank
day.
you. All right, next.
It's five, well, there's 2 new applications and then there's a few continuations. You want to start with new or continuation?
I believe we should do continuations first,
Okay, the next one is 739 Columbus Street.
right? Do we have anyone on the Zoom from 739?
Hi,
Hi
this is
there.
Elise. Can you see me?
Or at least we see and hear you.
Okay, great. Should I share my presentation
Yeah.
again?
Huh? We have some of your stuff here too. Craig was kind enough to give us a printout, so.
Okay, great. And I'll just bring it up on the screen if that's helpful.
Jan, could you tell us what your narrative is to remind us what we're going to focus on today?
Yes. Oops. 2/2 windows, corrected alignment of new idea for glass brick wall enclosure.
And
Right, so
Gotcha.
the applicant presented, I believe, the 6/6 windows.
Mhm.
And we had a robust discussion, about perhaps keeping 2/2. And then Jeremy, Commissioner Stein had a good comment about correcting the alignment of the enlarged windows so that they were lined up. And we needed to see maybe a new idea for the glass brick wall enclosure that turned the corner. That was somewhat visible, or would be somewhat visible.
All right.
Should I share?
Sure, show us the windows, show us the alignment of the side window, and show us what you've done with the glass brick.
Okay, great. Also, you were curious to see from the back, and so I pulled up these images that I had from the back of the building.
Right.
So as you can see, it's kind of open with the lattice, and the vinyl is over top of cinder block brush. So there was the kind of historic building on the left, which shows the 2/2 windows. And this is when it changed in the 70s to a different window. So we're just changing it back to the 2/2. These are the new drawings. And then on the side, we've also adjusted the location of the windows. So in the center that they're aligned on the right side. And then on the bottom right, there had been a glass brick wall area that was in an L. And so we just extended the clapboard siding, which is all being fixed up. And then we put the 2/2 window there instead. And I wanted to just point out that, we also changed the window in the top left of that side of the wall. So it's in alignment with the one on the top right. The one on the top right and the one below it are affected by what's happening in the interior, and the one on the bottom, that's where it's like been existing.
I think that's great. Much better. Thank you so much.
Let's go.
Well, we said, we didn't really, we didn't want this.
Are there any questions from the commission?
Well, these-
I think they're about to be.
Yes.
Did we approve the oversized windows on the second floor?
You mean that large one in the center?
No,
Well, they're all larger.
No, they're not larger than what was proposal. The issue we had was that Jeremy's comment was that the window in the center, the large window, didn't align with the window below it.
Yes, but that's very different from the original above. Well. and
It's
I-
extremely different from the original above. That is true. I don't believe we asked for that to
We were
change.
okay with it.
We asked for 2/2, And we asked for it to look a little more symmetrical, which they have done.
And did we, okay.
And remember, they were 6/6 last time, right? They were very busy and now they're 2/2.
And are those skylights in the roof? Did we discuss that? Yeah.
Are there skylights in the roof that were not, were they there last time? Because I don't remember discussing them.
They should have been there last time. Yeah, they are in the design from the beginning, but I think that the side of the building was what was surprising to you all.
So can we have a discussion on the skylights, please?
Yes.
And you're removing a chimney.
Sorry.
That's what should be there.
That's there.
It's still there? That's a skylight.
The window.
No,
No, this is the chimney.
I see there's three, you guys, there's 3 skylights
and one should be.
and the chimney's not there.
Right.
And that's one. Oh, we can certainly, and this one becomes horizontal and stuff. So, matches.
So just to be clear, this is the proposed
Correct,
and this is what the existing.
correct.
Okay.
Elise, are there any other changes that we haven't called out? So there's 3 skylights. There's the expanded window openings. Is there anything else we're not catching?
Not on this wall. I mean, there is.
Obviously the glass, that bottom right corner is reconfigured. But we knew about that. Oh, wait, you're removing that peak in the back also and making it into what? A terrace?
It is going to have just like a direct stair. Right now, it has kind of this sunroom, which I can actually show you in the existing pictures, maybe better. Here. So yeah, basically this is like an
They're
extended,
removing that too.
which has been described to us as most likely it was added in the 70s after. But it definitely is not to code and structurally, not really appropriate. So here's that kind of
That
area.
give anyone heartburn, the removal of that 70s
No.
slanted roof there? Great. So I think,
So.
is the biggest source of remaining concern the skylights?
Well, can you remind us what the plan is for the windows, what the materials are gonna be for the windows?
Yeah, the windows, well, we're removing these kind of fake shutters and we're gonna go with Martin brand windows is our plan. So yeah, we were thinking wooden windows, I believe. We're working with our architect on sourcing windows. We had kind of more been nailing down the design more than necessary.
We do have to have the specs for the window in order to issue the certificate of appropriateness. Sorry. We should have been more clear about that. That was missing last time. Because code enforcement needs something to look at to make sure that's what you install.
Yeah. Yeah, we're using modern windows that I would, could actually just check with them right now and just see if we were doing vinyl or metal, but I feel like we might have been leaning towards metal as our frame.
That's, and are the windows that are there now metal? What are they now?
Well, it was all switched out in the 70s to vinyl.
It's vinyl now. And for the Muntins, are you going to have true lights? Or are you going to have those ones that have the divider glued onto the glass? Or, because is this like a triple track? Does it have a storm window outside the inside window?
I don't believe so.
I think what I'm going for is a way to make these windows blend better with the siding of the building. And if possible, get rid of metal and vinyl and those materials that have a shine to them. Because you're enlarging them and you're generously taking them back more in the direction of the period of the building. And so for that reason, it really would look better if they were wood.
Yeah, I suppose actually what my response is I'm happy to take the suggestion. And so if wood window structures is the suggestion, we're very motivated to have it be historically appropriate. So
Wood is very easy for us to approve.
okay. I can just confirm with my friend who's the architect consultant, just to make sure that we know how to source that, but we don't see any problem with that.
Did you say you're using Marvin?
Marvin has a product.
Yeah.
Was Marvin the brand you said?
Yeah,
So they do a full line of, they do various lines of wood windows.
Yeah, they're,
And whatever.
Okay.
So they have it.
great.
So why don't we ask this? Okay, why don't we ask this? We'll issue, assuming we can get through the skylight discussion, we can issue the certificate of appropriateness with the condition that you provide us the spec sheet for those windows.
Okay, great.
And then let's now turn to a discussion of the skylights.
Would you like me to kick anything off or is this,
I'm sorry, it's really for the commission.
okay.
No, this is a very small building, and I think even just changing the the second story window designs, everything becomes very linear or very horizontal on the second floor. And now there's the addition of skylights in the roof. Again, this is a small building. There's really a lot going on here right now.
Amanda.
it's also because we see this side of the
It's very
building.
prominent. I
It's
would-
really just as prominent as the front. I mean, normally I wouldn't be too bothered by it, and I feel I'm a little on the fence, frankly, about the skylights. But I really take Paul's point of view that the building is small and it feels like a lot of skylights.
Are these, the skylights that you are showing, are they flush or are they surface mounted and stand up from the level of the roof?
I believe they're flush, but I can also confirm the design of where we're sourcing them.
Okay,
That would be better.
I mean, I personally, you know, if you'd say, no, you're on the fence, I'm okay with it if they were flush to the roof.
Mhm.
So that really doesn't help anybody, does it?
Doesn't help me. At least, how important are these skylights to your?
They're pretty important, just as it's been noted, it is a very small building. So we've just been hoping to get as much light into it as possible, and the skylights were really helping us access sunlight. And so we would really love to have, if it's
Is there
already.
any chance you could do them on the other side of the roof? Because that wouldn't be as visible from the street.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know what your floor plan is inside.
That would be,
But
that would be easier to approve.
Mhm. One thing I would also just to throw it out there as like kind of, historic thing to think about is how basically originally, and I don't know if it help or hurts my case, more just to throw it out there as a thing to think about, is how it used to have like much more of an alley presence, and there was actually the building to the right that was the hotel, and now it's much more of like an open relationship to the kind of the TJ Auto to the right. So that's what kind of was motivating us to rethink, kind of our whole relationship to like light and everything on that side. But yeah,
That's also why it's complicating it for us, right? Because if this was a row house, it would be easier to approve because it wouldn't be so prominent.
mhm.
And it wouldn't affect the streetscape as much as it does. And they don't look, they look. It's a prominent, despite its size, it's both prominent and significant.
Mhm. So perhaps switching it just to the other side. I know that in the layout of the house.
Shit, hold it. Elise, could you hold on for 1 second? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Chip, we see that you may be online.
Yes, this is Chip. I'm here.
Hi, Chip. We'd love to, are you following the discussion?
I am, yes.
Would you have I mean, you're able to vote because we have a quorum here. Do you have an opinion on the skylights? Do you know the building? Are you familiar with the project?
I am, and I've been listening to the presentation from the beginning. So I think the suggestion of moving the skylights to the other side of the roof is an excellent suggestion. I think that this elevation is important. As has been pointed out, it's quite visible from the street. It's an important, it's not just it's not just a row house that has another building right up against it that doesn't have a lot of presence on the street. So, and in terms of adding light into the building, of course, we don't have a plan. We're not looking at the plan, and I guess that if the goal is to achieve more light into the second floor, the abundance of windows that are on this elevation are going to bring a lot of light in from this side, and the skylights on the other side of the roof would actually bring in light into the second floor at a different time of day. So it could be a better accomplishment for the interior of the building if the skylights were on the other side.
Elise?
Yeah, I think we're open to that. I think we're open to that.
I think you're able to move the skylights to the other side. Then I think we're able to move ahead and approve this with the condition that we see the windows and that the skylights are flush. So you'll need a specification for the skylights. You'll need a specification for the windows. And then we'll be able to approve this today with those conditions.
One other thing, is there work that's being done to the storefront?
The storefront is in an exterior way pretty much staying exactly the same. There's like the kind of mending of the back right area. If you see where it used to be left here and then it had an open walkway, we're making that like an interior walkway. And
Well, what I'm concerned about, and what the commission I think is concerned about, is the execution of the storefront. We recently had a terrible experience on Warren Street with an underspecified, poorly detailed storefront work that was supposed to represent an historic photograph, and it's far from it. And I don't know that the commission has had this brought to them or has had any discussion about it, but I think that the commission needs to have, just as we need further details for the specifications of the double hung windows that we're talking about, the 2/2. I think the commission really needs very, very detailed plans and drawings and specifications for the storefronts, because I think they're as, if not more important than the windows. And knowing what that trim is, I mean, there's a note here for a new front door. And I don't know what else is being, it's being suggested to, on the second floor, to remove all the vinyl siding. Is that also the case on the storefront? I mean, we just don't have any detail on what's going on with the storefront. I think the commission needs to have very, very detailed drawings and specifications for the work of the storefront, so that the building official can properly implement the design.
That's so well said, Chip. So Elise, I can see the difference I can see is you've changed the door to the storefront. I think two things. Number one, can you call out any other changes you want to make to we need a specification for that door. And I assume it's wood. And then can you call out any other changes to the storefront? That would be number two. And number three is if the vinyl siding. If you're not leaving the vinyl siding exactly as it is, if you're not leaving the storefront exactly as it is when you remove the vinyl siding. And unless you're gonna replace something exactly as it is, then I'm afraid to Chip's point, we need to see any alterations that you propose once you remove the siding. I hope I've
Could you
said
take
that.
us back to the photograph of this, of the existing front of the building?
Yes.
And actually, those historic photographs that you just passed are very, very interesting. So
Yeah.
so here's the question, is your intention to remove the vinyl siding from the area around the storefront?
Yes, and then underneath is clapboard, and we were going to basically fix up all the existing clapboard and replace any rotten pieces.
Okay, in this photograph that you're looking at right now, there's a vertical yellow panel of the vinyl siding, which is between the storefront window and the recessed door.
Yeah.
What's behind that panel? Is there glass behind that panel?
There's not glass behind that panel.
Typically, there would be as part of that storefront. Would you go back to the historic photographs, please?
Yes. Yeah, it looks like it does have glass there.
Yeah, see, that's a really handsome storefront. It's got panels, flat panels, bordered by attractive trim, and it's, even though it's got a plethora of signs, it's still a very handsome storefront. And so I think one of the things that we've done with the commission in the past is to approve the removal of the vinyl siding, but not approve any work behind the vinyl siding until we see what is in evidence there, and excuse me, ask you to return with photographs of the existing condition and notations of what the material is that's underneath the vinyl siding.
That would be great. I feel like we would also love to see exactly what's underneath there to respond to it. And obviously,
Yeah.
as much light that can be brought in is
Yeah.
preferable. Yeah, if it's turning it into a window again, that'd be great.
And also look at the, excuse me, also look at the door to the left. It's a 2-panel with a glass panel above. You can just see a portion of it.
Mhm.
Maybe, so that might give you a good pattern to think about for the new door, or it might give you a justification for replacing the existing door that's there now. What, do you have another, there's another historic photograph, right?
Yeah, we have the one from the 70s here.
Yeah, well, see, that's before the vinyl siding.
Yeah,
That has the original. Now that has a full panel glass door on it, which it's probably appropriate. At least I think that's what I'm seeing. I'm not sure. But but anyway, further investigation on the detailing of the
But Chip, you bring up so many good points. So what's the door that's on there now? It's not, is it that door?
no, it's
No, it's not that door.
there's
That's like a residential door, and the glass is shorter, right?
yeah, and what is the door on the left hand? What's the door on the left hand side that's there now? Is that a full glass door? I can't tell.
no, it's a whole wooden door. It doesn't have any glass.
Oh, okay.
So I can see a few things. Number one, we're really interested in the treatment of the doors. We're really interested in the treatment and what's underneath that siding when it goes and what you're gonna do with it on either side of the door and above. And also, I know you can note from the original historical photograph that below that bay window were fish scale shingles. If you want to go back to the historic photo. There you go. Or some, I can't tell if those are fish scale or if they're shingles, but that's a nifty, if that's under there.
Well, I think it's not, when you look at the later photo.
Yeah, the one of the 70s doesn't show it. If that's just That
Could
could
be
be
over
asbestos
it.
on top of it though. So
That could be a stamped metal, kind of a fish scale that's made out of stamped metal,
Yeah.
because it looks very thin.
At least there's something under there. I'm sure you'll be as interested as
Yeah.
we, is like knowing
Yeah.
what's there. And as you
Mhm.
contemplate the restoration, if you wanted to, if it was possible to mimic that, that would really be exciting to us.
Well, I think that's another element of the storefront. I mean, it should not, we shouldn't approve wooden, we shouldn't approve clapboard on that apron of the bay window, the bottom bay. That would be a different material from siding anyway, because it has to act more like roofing and not so much like siding because of its exposure. So,
Maybe this is what we should do, if this makes sense. Approve what we can approve today. Don't approve any alterations to the facade and storefront beyond the windows, right? And the removal of the vinyl. We don't have to approve the removal of the siding. And then at least we'd ask you to come back when you've removed it and show us really in a more fulsome way, the treatment, like the treatment of the doors. You know where we're going and you seem extremely receptive to making it look as much like this as possible. So that's what we, and it's what an exciting project.
Thank
And
you.
Paint Firestone tires and Edison batteries underneath and that would really.
Maybe put some tires on the front of it.
And when you see those tires restored.
I went, was still there.
It would be cute. All right, anyway, thank you. Thank you for your patience with us as we sort of continue to unfurl this. And I hope we're helping not complicate it.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's great. And actually what's interesting is I didn't receive these photos until a week before, or less than a week before the previous meeting. So I feel like we just didn't have a moment to like process we would prefer. We like truly would prefer to just take it back to this. And we just assumed because the rest of the building had that clapboard that it had extended through. But I'm glad to have this photo and discuss it with you all. So I think it's all good.
What if you put an old timey air pressure gauge in front with and made it an electric vehicle charger? That's what I think.
Hey, that sounds good. It's the future.
You tell it goes away, I get to say whatever I want. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, Elise. Well, so can I have that's right. That's good enough, right? Okay, a motion to find the segment of the application complete that we're going to approve. So that would be Miranda and Hugh. And all in favor, Chip, you can vote too. Great. And
I nay,
you're naying because for the skylights.
for the window, the second story windows.
You're naying because of this, because of the expansion of the second story windows. Okay, so noted. Anyone?
Yeah, we are not approved.
The completeness, though, you're fine with the completeness, you're gonna nay on the next one. The application is complete. You're not missing
That is
anything to make a
fine.
decision.
Yes, I agree.
All right, noting that where Paul's going, anyone can consider this. All right, I'm gonna raise, anyone, can I have a motion to waive a public hearing and instruct the city attorneys to create a certificate of appropriateness reflecting what we have approved here today?
Or it was for the
With the
rear and
condition.
west elevation and removal of vinyl siding on storefront.
Not, and the skylights to be moved to the other side.
Yes, that-
And then we need the specifications for the skylights and the specifications for the windows. And then nothing except the windows and is to be altered on the front of the building. The second story windows. And the applicant is gonna return when they remove the siding on the facade.
And the specifications for the windows are a contingency, because if they bring in something
Right,
that
if it's-
doesn't work
right.
for us. say
Right,
so.
absolutely. Thank you.
Excuse me, I know we're kind of done with our discussion, but I feel like Paul has a point to make about the second floor windows that I didn't quite get.
Paul, do you want to, before we go to the final vote, do you want to raise your objection to the second floor windows again?
Well, sure, again, I think just because of, this is not a big building and the scale of the building, and if you look at what is there now versus what the exposure those windows are gonna have, and really the size, I really don't think, again, they're very linear, not as rectangular. I think they just overpower, compared to the scale of the building. I just don't think, they really fit with the design or the aesthetic of the building.
To the,
Just let me, I would follow up with that, to point is that, the existing building has a pair of double hung windows, which is not uncommon for a second floor. I mean, again, typically, the second floor is a living space and can have different types of windows than the first floor. So it's not that they all have to align, particularly in this situation where there's clearly a storefront commercial on the first floor use and a residential on the second floor use.
I think he's really referring, Chip, not to the alignment or the position, but to
Well,
the.
that's just a general comment, but I would say that I think that when these windows get grouped into 3s and 5s rather than to 2s, that it does, to Paul's point, it does look out of place to have these groupings of 5 and 3 rather than 2. The second floor is in this building was used as a residence. Is the second floor used also as a residence now proposed?
Yes.
Okay, so I get that there's an interest in having more exposure for that residence. However, that's a lot of exposure. I think uncommon and uncharacteristic would be to see them grouped in 3s and 5s like this. We could possibly ask the applicant to return with some alternatives to that second floor arrangement of windows that might be more compatible.
I think we're gonna need to get a sentiment on that from the other commissioners. We basically, and not that we're within our rights to ask this, certainly, but we did review this. We did review this last time. So I don't love that, but Hugh, and also it's a very good point, right? It's taking something that has a relatively modest arrangement of windows and putting a lot more glass on a very prominent facade. So perhaps we should have dwelt on that more. Hugh, do you have an opinion?
Well, I think that if we were to take those central group of 5 and size them to the other 2 groups of windows, that size window, left and right of it, I think that it might be more successful. I don't have a problem with the 5, maybe just the size of them height wise, is throwing everybody off a little more. I like more light and, windows are more efficient now and, but I think if we were to make them just the same size, so it's a continuous line of windows all the way across, I think it would be more successful in its design.
I am likely to agree to Chip. Do you have an opinion of those for recent, before we ask the applicant? Would that be more?
Well, yes, if you just took, and I think what Hewitt just suggested is certainly an approach. It's the applicant's, needs to come up with the final design, but we're offering suggestions here. One possibility, another possibility would be to, excuse me, in that grouping of 5 windows, consider what it would look like if you eliminated the middle window and you had two pairs on either side, had full trim, not dissimilar from the pair that's on the existing house now, but duplicated. And, I think that would be more successful than the horizontal. I think the point that Paul was making before, and I think I heard this right, that linear aspect of this is, of these window openings is confusing for this building. And we tend to see windows assembled more in vertical components rather than in these long horizontal components. So eliminating the middle window here would accomplish that for the middle five windows. And if you took the other three windows and simply made them two windows instead of three, then I think, that would be another option for the applicant to explore.
Well, there's another thought, which is you could take those windows on either side and make them pairs of the same size, and that would look extremely natural and give them more light. Right? In other words, if the left was a pair, right, fuller size, like whatever the full size is, that was two pairs in the center, and then the one on the right was a pair. You would get more light and it would look much more appropriate from the outside. I would also note what the great work that the applicant is doing to fix up the back of this building and make it look much more contiguous, really to let like that where the glass, like, we really appreciate the effort going into making that look appropriate.
Let
And
me
I'd
just
also say, at least I'm sorry that, this is not our favorite type of work to go back and go against something, but could we get your reaction?
Oh, yeah, totally. And it's all for like, just getting the right pattern. So it's totally fine. But I'm just curious, because I know that we had kind of thought about these 3 bay windows as kind of this, leading us into feeling okay with like the 3 number with some windows on the side. And then also one thing, I just wouldn't want to lose the middle window because that's like right in like the main kind of social space of the apartment. So like bringing as much light in there, would be hoped for. So, kind of maintaining how there are these like 3 sections of windows on the back. The reason why this one's higher is because it's actually in the kitchen. So there's a counter there that pushes it to be up higher. So they won't be able to be quite symmetrical if we go back to, I feel like they're basically, if we turn this into a 2 window, and this could go back to being a 2 window on the right, but it'll just maintain its like higher up kind of, relationship to kind of the bottom measurement. But I definitely would want to keep a central window just for that kind of central light.
It has to be that scale. Is it possible to make it slightly, like it's 5 now, would it be, Chip suggested 2 and 2, would you be open to reducing it to 3?
Yeah, I think reduce it.
Make it 4 instead of, at least
Or even
then it
4.
would be in 2s.
Yeah, maybe we're taking it to 2 and 4. And
Maybe
then
it's 2, 4, 2.
Yeah,
And I think you're gonna like the way it look. I don't want to design your building, I guess, none of us do, but it would just be, it would be, as it were, much easier to prove because it would flow very well.
yeah, that makes sense to me. And then basically moving the skylights to the other side, and it would be much simplified. And I know with the bottom area, we definitely wanted to like keep it as simple as possible because I knew we were kind of asking for a lot with the window addition in the top floor. So definitely we're just looking to simplify where we can and then get as much light where we can.
I would say I really appreciate your openness to our suggestions and your patience with our process on this one, particularly when we've gone back. So thank you. I don't sense that you're like ready to start in the next 2 weeks. So could you come back to us one more time?
Yeah, do you have another meeting in 2 weeks?
It'll actually be 3 weeks.
Okay, in 3 weeks.
It's the second Friday of January, which is the January 13th.
Yes, it's 4.
Almost 4 weeks.
I wonder if in that time, we could be approved to remove the vinyl off the front of the building, because then we could just figure out what's
You
under.
don't actually need us to do that. I think we can give a building permit. Craig gives the building permit, so go for it. And then you'll have more information when we see you in a month.
You need it, because you're changing and altering the conditions.
Thank you. I should know that. Yes, let's issue that certificate of appropriate. Do I have a vote?
Wait, that
Okay.
won't be issued though until the middle of January unless I write it up right now.
Would you write it up right now?
Which we can do today.
What we generally have done with that in the past is allow the applicant to remove it based on the conversation, the minutes,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because they're gonna come back with
Right.
whatever they find, so.
I feel like that's true. We did that with the deck. We didn't.
Yep. So what we do is we document what the minutes allow to remove, that's all they can do, then they have to come back.
And we did it with 43 North
It's
City.
it's a better process. So so Elise, you may remove, we're not gonna create any document other than our.
Yeah.
May I have a motion to, I don't have to find an application complete.
I think it's
To
not, it's
approve
not.
the C of A for removal of the
A motion to approve the C of A for the removal of the line.
I make that one.
Hold on, we don't need a C of A, you just said that they can use the minute, we don't issue them, they
Yeah,
can do it.
but it's, you're granting a certificate of appropriateness orally, instead of us having like the whole written.
But we have two, in the interest of further precedent, we have two examples where we've already done it without a motion, without a C of A to remove vinyl, so that they can come back and show us what's underneath.
I know, but.
We prefer this.
Yeah,
May I have a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness and remove the vinyl and return to it?
Yes.
Okay,
and yeah, we'll get that, you can sign it today.
and we'll sign it today. So at least you can remove the vinyl. And we really look forward to your next presentation on the window arrangement. So
Okay.
thank you, Paul and Chip, for your input. It's really helpful. And thank you, Elise, for your patience.
Thank you all.
What's next?
Next, we have 43 North 6, which we've already done.
Mm-hmm.
So next, we have 727 of North Columbia Street.
Mm-hmm.
Applicant to show amended drawing for rear of building with more appropriately sized second.
Yes, we remember this. The one on the park is Deconic Engineering doing this?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi there.
Hi. Give me 1 second. I'm sharing my screen. So last time, I neglected to show you guys what was previously approved. So I'm just gonna run through those real quick. So this was the front, which nothing is changing. This was the rear elevation, and this was the proposed fence that was supposed to be installed. The dumpster enclosure is going to stay the same. So that's been previously approved. And then these are the side elevations.
I'm gonna pause. There's no fence connecting the building to the dumpster enclosure, right?
Correct. So
You
now
said
it'll
the
just kind of be
dumpster standing by itself at the end of the lot, okay?
yep, so it'll just be this portion here.
Mhm.
So as I said, nothing's changing on the front. As you can see on the 7th Street elevation, you no longer have that courtyard entrance or the fence that continues down the street. This is the rear elevation. We have removed the roof deck, and the main concern from last time was those door-sized windows on the 2nd floor. And so you asked us to come up with a couple options. And I've got 3 of those for you. You guys really liked the triple mulled window that was on the 7th Street side. So that's what I'm showing here.
Mm-hmm.
And then these are the other 2 options. Because the other windows were more of a modern style, we figured, you said one of the options could be if we put windows in the same location as the tall ones, but made them shorter. So that's the, 1202A. And then the one on the bottom was making it look more like a window, but maybe still having some of the height that we previously had to maybe kind of retain that greenhouse feel that they were going for.
Okay.
Can
Anything
you,
else? That's great. Can you zoom in a little bit on each of these for us to look at them, the 3 options? And I'd say thank you for giving us 3 options. It's really thoughtful.
Tell me when to go to the next one.
Next, please.
Can you go in just a little tighter on that?
Sure. So for these ones, these would be picture windows, and we would have the simulated divided lights and a simulated check rail to get the 2/2 that you guys asked for, which is in keeping with the rest of the windows in the building. Because if you remember, previously it was just a solid picture window with no lights or anything in it.
Can you address the materials of the exterior? You have the windows on the right are surrounded by brick. The windows on the left, these are the second floor windows, correct, are surrounded by wood. And
Yep.
what is the nature of the trim and the lintels for the brick? How is that being handled?
So the brick is existing. This portion is being enclosed. This was all previously approved as vertical wood clapboard. And then the windows are Marvin Ultimate Wood. So the trim would all be wood. And as far as the lintels, I guess that's part of the options here. So in this one, we're showing like on the 7th Street, how you have the brick mold, which is more natural. But then if you have something in a wood framed wall, brick mold doesn't necessarily make as much sense because it's not holding up the brick. But then maybe installing some sort of trim that from far away looks similar. But as I mentioned previously, the original design intent for the second floor was to have like that greenhouse feel. So the trim would be still wood, but thinner, more modern.
Could you show us the 7th Street elevation again? Do you have a photograph of that?
I can pull up a photograph if you guys give me a minute.
No, that's actually, this drawing is just fine. So these are these stone lintels in the brick?
Yes.
And so the 3-part window that you were remarking about previously is a new grouping of 3 windows on the ground floor that modify an existing opening in that location. Is that correct?
Yeah, there was like a service door there, like a like a old roll-up door location, and there was a Bilko door, but we originally had a tall picture window in this location as well, and you asked us to come up with something that was more in keeping with the rest of the facade, but still fit inside the existing opening, and brought in light. And this is the solution that we came up with. And it was remarked in the last meeting that something like this would be more fitting on the rear elevation as well.
So that's a new stone lintel that is being proposed there?
No, that one's already there because it's above the existing opening.
Okay, there's an existing lintel there now.
Yes.
And are those windows the same size as the windows on the 2nd and the 3rd floor?
Yes. In this option, yeah. They're all marked as D.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So are we just talking about these 2 groupings of windows on the 2nd floor rear?
There are 3 options.
Yeah, understood.
These
but
are the
that's-
windows, those 2 windows are all we're talking about.
This application is just for these grouping 2 windows.
Yes.
Okay.
And can we see the 3rd option?
So these ones are just a little bit taller. they actually match the windows on the railroad side of the building. on the first floor.
Reviewer gave.
They match the windows on the railroad side of the building? What, can you show us that?
Good, and you? Good.
So
What?
these ones here.
I think that's with me, Chad.
And these ones are were original to the building.
I mean, let's see, maybe we can hear from someone else. They all kind of work for me
Yeah.
personally, so
Do you
because
have
I can argue, you can argue that making them look like the other facade, the front and side is nice, but not, perhaps unnecessary. The second thing is, the scale doesn't seem to matter much on the back of the building. So does the applicant have I'm getting the sense the applicant prefers the third because it's the most amount of light?
Yes, the applicant does prefer these, but would also be okay with these ones.
That they're all new. Does anyone in the commission have a strong preference for anything else? I'm getting no.
I think also Chip's point about the two different materials that
Yeah.
it's backing onto.
Makes
This
these
lighter
more-
treatment makes this more
Less obvious.
consistent.
Yes, it does. I think that's a great point. Thank you, Chip and Ryan. So Chip, you're fine with the third, the one, can we see this is the second, right?
Yep, and this one's the third.
The third. Chip, are you fine with this one?
The larger windows here, yeah, that's
I
fine.
think it's great. So can I have a motion? Do we waive a public hearing for this? Or we find this complete? Is it a separate application?
We had a public hearing on the majority of the changes already,
Right.
so this is just the step back from those changes. I don't know if you need to have another public hearing because it's a lesser change.
I don't know. I'm not back with it.
I'm gonna say then we can find the application complete. Do I have a motion for that?
for version?
For the third version, right? Yes?
Yes.
And this is the larger windows, right? Yeah. Option number 3. Do I have a vote to waive a public hearing for this and approve it? Great,
Yeah.
motion. Second, thank you.
Thank you, this approving.
I sure will. It is Paul and Miranda for both. And then I'll have a vote.
All right, all in favor?
All in favor, thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Chip, aye, great. So we're all unanimous on that. Good luck. Thank you for your great, thoughtful work here and giving us these options. And I'm glad it's working out. The building's gonna look great.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you.
Yes. We have 113 Warren. Do we have anyone from 113 Warren here?
Good morning, commissioners. I'm here, but we're not here to present. So next meeting.
Thank you. Bye now. Is there anything after that?
402.
Is there anyone from 402?
Walter.
Walter?
Yes, good morning.
Hi, Walter.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go right into sharing my screen because I believe we're in a public hearing and I'm going to present some material. So
We're not, there's no public hearing scheduled yet. This is not a public hearing.
okay, then we're not in a public hearing, but I'm going to share my screen anyway.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, so the highlighted is his to do.
Right. Walter, you're to give us a more complete application with historic references.
Correct.
And, we talked about other things as well. So we're
Yes.
excited.
Yes.
And I think the outcome of this is like, are we ready to schedule a public hearing?
Okay, I understand now. So let's see if I can do this properly.
It was up and then it went away.
Okay, sorry.
I think it's there behind the people.
All right, I know. I'm going to get to it in just 1 second. I have a couple of them, so I want to make sure it's the right one. That's all. Okay, is there one up now?
I think we're deleting that. Sorry, it was up. Thank you.
You see it?
No, we don't.
Dear, oh dear. Okay, so now I'm on my screen and you hopefully are going to see it now. Do you see it now?
Yes. The Sanborn map.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Oh boy. All right, let me get rid of all my extraneous stuff. Okay, can you all see it clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right, so this is the 1884 Sanborn map, and we're at the corner of Warren and 4th Street, Prison Alley here. And in 1884, the two row houses that are still there were here, number 8 and number 6, I believe, or sorry, yeah, whichever numbers they are. This row house was extant and is no longer there. This is the corner building that exists now. And interesting enough, notice Hotel Bar right here. So we are definitely repeating history. And where this was a 3.5-story brick building is indicated here. And then this is part of the property. And here where it says tobacco and cigars, it indicates a 2-story building. And of course, the yellow indicates wood frame. So these were all masonry buildings and these were wood frame buildings. And we are proposing, okay, here are some existing context photos, which had been asked for last time. Now, this is a great shot because it shows pretty much at a glance what's gone. There's a gap here, and most of you are familiar, there's a kind of green and blue fence with a kind of turn of the 19th century kind of park view here, painted on it, and no building at the moment. This building is still there. Here was a row house, which is now gone. And here's a view looking down, or sorry, up 4th Street. Here are the two row houses, which are still extant. And you can see at that time, the stairs came down to the sidewalk. And you can also see that the sidewalk gets fairly constrained at that point. And then just a little more context, you can see what was across the street at the time. This is obviously still there, the Etsy building, everything's still there. This is a shot on Warren Street. And this is our hotel building down here and here. And then this is the little corner of the wood building that existed on the site on Warren. And then here on 4th Street, these are the two existing houses. And then you can see fairly late 1977, there was still a house, although the roof of the house is broken. And you can imagine that this was already starting to go. So this will really be a big topic of discussion today, because in order to make this a hotel entry and get everything to work, we would like to push this in. So rather than recreating the street wall here, we're going to be asking for permission to push in. These are simply existing elevations that show the condition now before we're building anything. This is the 3.5-story building on the corner, and this is the double row house. Here on Warren Street, again, the 3.5-story building, and nothing on this part of the site at this point. Sorry, I keep forgetting to use these arrows. So this is the site plan that we're proposing. And if you remember the Sanborn map that we just showed a second ago, this is the corner building here. This is the existing 2-story little row house. And all of this is being proposed to be infilled. Again, this would be a 2-story wood frame or wood appearing frame building here. This would be a masonry building, masonry, wood. You'll see it in a second. Okay, so these are at a largish scale. The context elevations, which explain why we think what we're proposing makes sense. So at the moment, you remember from the existing shot, there's nothing here. This is where we're proposing putting the hotel entrance. And I think I mentioned last time, we have an interesting issue because we have to have now 2 elevators with an override here. And therefore we need to push up here, and we're proposing, and we have some examples of precedent, if you'd like to see them, a mansard to allow us to do this. So we're kind of trying to make a different thing that was there on Warren Street. This is what you would see from the street, a very simple 2-story building that's quite simple to what was there. And then here is a sketch rendering from looking up Warren Street to the corner of 4th and Warren. So this is the existing building. I apologize, we didn't have time to put the brackets on, but you get the idea. And this is the new storefront that is being proposed. And then this is the 2-story building that's being proposed. And here's a close-in view. Here now is the mansarded building. This is a new from the ground up building. And I should quickly explain that one reason that we're putting the elevators there is this is the part of the site that doesn't have a building on it. So we don't have to go into an existing historic structure and construct 2 elevator shafts and all of the associated mechanicals. This will allow us to do that sort of on the side. And then this is a view looking down Warren Street. Again, this is what you would see on Warren. This is our proposed addition. This is the existing building. And then this is the home store down on the next corner. A view looking up 4th Street. So again, the corner building, this is how we think the new inserted building will be perceived because it's stepped back. So it kind of starts to hide in the massive buildings. This is the restored 2-story historic building with an additional story added, a new roof added to that. And then these are the 2 existing buildings that are on the other side of Prison Alley. And then this is quite a large building here. So you can see, at least from a scale standpoint and from context, I don't think this is a blockbuster, but we'll see. Here's just another view of it, trying to give you a sense of how it kind of relates and how it will appear. And then this is looking back down 4th Street towards the corner of Warren. And again, as you can see from this illustration, we're counting on the fact that this pulls back and gives us a nice entry to actually give it a kind of context where it doesn't actually destroy the street front that's there, that it kind of works because it's sort of sitting behind, or appears to be sitting behind. These are the elevations that, with one change, one small proposed change you saw last week, and they're more or less a flat and more detailed representation with material notes of what we're proposing. At the moment, we're proposing to make this insert a stucco building, and the 2-story addition on Warren Street would be, painted wood or hardy board. So, that kind of idiom. And we have kind of spelled out the palette of materials. I won't dwell on it, but I believe they're generally materials that we found the board to be sympathetic to in the past. So hopefully we can go through that fairly quickly when you want to have that discussion. This is a side elevation, as you probably noted from the site plan, but here it is again. We're very tight. We're not building against the adjacent building, but there's a very slim slot. So we were hoping to cover this with a nice corrugated metal and have it more or less disappear. Hopefully we could grow some vines on it, but I don't, I think it'll probably be neutral enough so it won't be an issue. And then this is an elevation from Prison Alley. And the only significant change here is there were some trim bands here, which everybody thought the building looked better without. So we took those off. And then finally, just to keep it moving along, I did want to show, I think, a wonderful precedent. My photographs aren't very good, but you can see there was a row of identical 2-story houses, and the house at the end of that row put on a fancier porch and a mansard roof. And this roof is visible from all over Hudson, and it's kind of a nice touch. And so I guess our feeling is this photograph or these two photographs tend to show that this mansard properly handled will just look like something part of the historical continuum of the block. So I believe with that, that's my presentation. I'm here with Matthew from LMV. Matthew, do you want to say anything?
No, I just want to thank the commissioners for taking the time and listening to our presentation, and we welcome your comments.
I have a question, but are there any other, does anyone else want to go first? Can you point out on the existing corner storefront, can you draw our attention to any alterations you intend to make there?
Yes, let me go back to.
And also compare it to what was in the historic photograph.
Sorry. Trying to get this at a scale where it makes sense. So, John, to answer your question, at one point, all of the brick, except for one little section in here, I believe, or here, sorry, was taken out, and the whole thing was opened up as a series of storefronts. And you can see it's a little hard with the signage and everything to discern what was original. I think we haven't, in some of the photos, I apologize, I'll have to go back and see if we haven't earlier. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. So I actually think this is our building here. And so you can see before there was a kind of modern storefront, it was more the traditional granite piers coming down, supporting a kind of cornice that had all of the storefront lettering on it. And you know, obviously at some point, here's an example where they've closed everything up. It's all been bricked up. Somewhat apropos a comment that was made earlier today, this is what we're facing today. And we haven't really had a chance to do a lot of demolition or exploration on this facade, although from the historic record and the photographs, for instance, we know these are two extant granite piers that we're hoping to keep. And I guess my answer is we're planning to put in this new storefront, but we're going to put it in sort of weaving around what structurally is still left over. And I'm sorry, I'm looking to see if I have a good picture of it today. I think I do. Sorry. I apologize. Okay. Sorry, Mike. So I don't know if I answered that question or not, but
Can you show us the elevation drawing of that you're proposing?
Yes.
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think people are really going to be interested in what that corner looks like.
So there it is, sort of in the abstract. Let me get a better. All right. Thank you for your patience. Here it is. All right. Do you want me to zoom in on that? So far we know for a fact that there are two extant granite piers with some interesting kind of painted signage on them, and there's an extant brick pier here. We assume there could be more piers under this or something, but it was cleared out at some point and then new walls put in. So at the moment, we're hoping to go with what's there that we know is there and to open this up with a regular, you know, divided wood storefront that would be pretty much drawn up after we'd had a chance to do the demolition and measure everything and come back with a set of details. Some exactly what happened with 501 Union, actually, where we got permission to kind of do the overall thing. And then we had to come back to you with the individual elements as we were doing the demolition.
Thank you. It's very helpful. But your thesis is that you would, if we found more elements, you would design around it.
That's absolutely what we want to do. The more we find, the happier we will be.
To pick an example, Walter had pointed out the granite piers around the single door that's to the right-hand side of the two single doors that are next to each other, that we're aware of. And we're interested to, you can see some things today. We're interested to get in there and see what else that's of a historical nature that we can make good use of.
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna open it up, but I'm just to say before we do, I think this is one of the most important things in my 6 years that's ever come before us.
Yes.
And even perhaps more than the new construction on the depot, because it's not new construction and it's literally in the heart of Hudson.
Right.
So with that, I think our goal today is perhaps to give more general thoughts and to which the applicant can respond or not, and then really sort of promote and schedule and promote the public hearing once we determine that the application is complete. So are there any other comments from the commissioners?
Walter?
Yes.
On the 4th Street side, since we knew what that, that missing townhouse looked like, and it, it was very similar or exactly like the two that are remaining, was there a particular reason then that you executed something, so very different and set back?
Yes. So we are making this the entrance to the hotel, and the sidewalk is really narrow. So if we wanted to have any kind of a drop off or anything that made sense, or if we're going to put a little canopy out there later, whatever, it seemed very useful to push the building back, Paul. If you guys feel that that's a deal breaker, I don't think anybody in our team would fight. We just thought this was the right thing to do, that being frank about the fact that we're putting a building that's different in and setting it back and giving it a different treatment made sense to us. But if it doesn't make sense to you, then you get to decide.
Did you say you wanted to put an elevator in that building?
That's why
Yeah,
the
that's
roof
why
is
the
so high in
mansard.
America.
Two.
And the existing townhouses, you're going to raise the roof line? What are you doing?
So this is the current roof line here. They're actually, we don't show them, but there's a couple of windows in this cornice here, the old attic windows. So this is an additional floor on top of this. And obviously then we're trying to take advantage of the fact that we have elevators here. So, it's I agree with what John said. And so we're going to work with you guys to make this what it needs to be.
Hugh,
Miranda, I like it a lot. I think it's done with a great deal of sensitivity and thought, and the major project on 2 streets. I think they're going in a good direction, and I understand, the issue with the higher mansard roof, but again, they're putting in 2 elevators because of code, and for this to happen, they need that, and I think it looks in place. It's not, doesn't stick out like a sore thumb at all.
Yeah, I feel, as you said, John, that the public hearing is really key. We're going to get a lot of input. And my personal philosophy is, if you are building something new, it's better not to copy what was there, but to make something that is new, that works with it. I know that's not everybody has that same perspective, but that's my personal perspective. So I think recessing is a good idea, because it leaves the original structures at the sidewalk line. So to me, it's very much ready for the public hearing, I guess is what I would say.
I would say, if that's what we're here to decide, it is ready for the public hearing. Now I'm gonna express my opinion, which I have, a real concern I have is with the existing townhouse and turning it from what it is, which is very original, into with this third floor, this gambrel roof. It's right now a very low peak roof. And turning it into this gambrel roof is a pretty radical change.
But I think it keeps it more in scale with what else is going on in the block as you start building these buildings.
I mean, well, but we're building, so we would be altering something historic to comport the scale with something modern.
Yes.
So I think that's what I think. And the gambrel roof and the scale and the setback of that addition to me is something I really look forward to hearing what the public has to say, because to me, in setting it, even though it's a very practical reason, and raising it so tall in Mansard, even though there's also very practical reason, is a pretty large departure from what has always been there and the scale of Hudson generally, in a super prominent place, as we've already said. So I look forward to hearing what the public have to say. And I don't want those and to be quite honest, that those large gambrel alley facing blocks, I understand why they are what they are, but it's going to be a very, very large transformation to the cityscape on the one of our most important corners. And I think everyone should be ready to give it the most thoughtful approach possible when we meet it. But I don't want any of those comments to rain on both. Thank you all to your openness to our suggestion, as always, and to the importance of this project in Hudson, for Hudson. What a great thing to do. All right, so can I, with that,
I would just.
We could ask Chip also, I'm sorry.
I would like to say, also reinforce that, I think there are many aspects of this application that are really attractive and appropriate. I think the concept along Warren Street of stepping the addition down to a 2-story and have it be in the appearance of frame is appropriate. And I think it works with the 1-story storefront that's next to it, and it pops back up again to the right of that with a larger building. So I think that this concept on Warren Street is successful in terms of the massing and the scale of the proposed addition on the right-hand side. Of course, the legitimate restoration of the brick facade and the bracketed cornice is appropriate. Obviously, and I believe also the construction of a storefront is particularly appropriate here. I mean, we see in some of the early photographs probably the 20th century storefront in which they wiped out the granite piers and put in a steel structure to support an early 20th century storefront. That's the photograph we have with the cleaners. But I'm really intrigued by the granite piers that you pointed out, and the possibility that there was, and in one of the earlier early photographs, there's a different type of storefront other than our sort of typical 20th century storefront. And maybe in some ways, we have a little bit of a model at the building at the corner of 3rd and Warren that also that has not granite piers, but previously unpainted marble piers. That storefront may be a model of that same vintage. Thank you for bringing up that photograph, because you can see the verticality of this storefront, of these storefront openings, and what a contrast that is to the horizontal transparency that was developed in the early 20th century storefront, where they put in the steel frame and the steel columns and the steel beams and tried to make it as absolutely as thin as possible. So I'm intrigued that you're looking to do your architectural archaeology here and try and discover materials that might be that might have survived that previous, that 20th century storefront. So I think that all of that direction on Warren Street is appropriate and well thought out. And I really look forward to seeing your continued detailing and thoughts about how to put all that together. On the 4th Street side, I like the concept of slightly recessing the middle section. And may I just say a little bit to Paul's point. I mean, you have two possibilities here. One would be to rebuild what we know was there. And you pointed that out. And the other is to build anew. And I take no objection to building anew in this application. I think that there are many reasons for this expansion that's necessary, both in height and in and in the total development of the site. I rather like the slight recess. I'm not certain, but if you recall, in this image that you have on the right-hand side of the Face Stockholm building that's on the other side of the street, there's a townhouse behind it. That's to the right. You can leave it there. That townhouse, I think that's slightly set back from the face of, I'm not certain of this, but my vague recollection is that it's slightly recessed back. And so, and I understand the need for the verticality of your proposed addition in the middle of the of your composition. And I don't think it's really troublesome. I think that you have two approaches. You either build new or you reproduce. And I think that the way that, of course, as you get into the more details of this, the way that you finish the sides of the two buildings that you're exposing in that recess will count for a lot, because those buildings were not intended to have returns on them or size them. So I think that your detailing of that will be very important and part of the success of this. I guess I'm questioning the 3rd floor addition on top of the two townhouses. I think it would be terrific if you didn't have to do a 3rd floor addition on those two buildings. I think that, but it's very, very difficult to do that successfully architecturally. I think that the gambreled roof is not appropriate. I don't think it's successful. I think a type of a mansard might work, but with the presentation of the gambrel end toward the alley, it takes on a whole different architectural tone than if it were truly a mansard. Even if it were a mansard that turned the corner, so that the existing cornice, I don't remember whether the existing cornice turns the corner or not.
Does not.
But I think that that 3rd floor of the two townhouses is the least successful of all of what you're proposing in terms of execution. I'm not necessarily opposed to the concept of an addition, but it has to be done really, really well. Otherwise, it'd be better to not do it at all. And also, from the point of view of the gambreled roof, a new component that's to the left, standing in Prison Alley, by repeating that gambreled roof form in Prison Alley, I think it does more disservice to the townhouses on the right, that are on 4th Street. So I'd love for you to take another look at how the massing of that new work is, that's inside of the property, if you will, that is visible from Prison Alley. But so many things about this are good. I certainly believe it's ready for public hearing. I think that finding some alternatives to some of these designs, I know that you welcome the opportunity to explore other things, and we really appreciate that. I think there's a lot of good here.
Okay, that's some good advice.
Well, at home, that's still kind of stuff. That's sort of the back. So I hear a lot.
I couldn't hear that.
Walter, did you comment?
Oh, I just said that was good advice. Somebody else is speaking, I think.
This is Matthew with Liska McCormick Van Boris. I think that in terms of identifying the things that we've been struggling with, and we've been trying to do the right thing here with this important project. I listened to Commissioner Chip speaking, and these are a lot of the conversations and things that we've been talking about, and that we've been struggling as well. So I think, in terms of, we can discuss what the solution may be, but I think that those comments are really spot on in terms of identifying what the key issues are. So thank you.
I would also say that a few things. Number one, the commissioner should go by the site again. If you haven't, 100 feet from here. The building that the addition is proposed on the third floor is a beautiful building, standalone. And it in my opinion, deserves to retain that integrity, right? So I understand it's part of a much larger complex, but it is great. I also, that's really actually my only comment, because that is to me my major concern with the whole project. The second thing I would say is, Walter, do you want to consider these comments and come back with another view on the 13th for us to look at?
Of course.
Or do you want to have us go straight to a public hearing and gather more comments for you to consider?
That might save more time just to go to a public hearing, but what do you all think?
I think it's your choice.
I think what we would do is take a chance and come to a public hearing with new images, and perhaps Commissioner Bowl or some of the others would allow us to run those by them informally, just to get some informal comments. But I think we have enough information here to understand what the problem is, and I think we can solve it.
Right where the T under the corner. Let me just maintain that here.
It's a little more.
Fine, but I lose track of his application because of this.
Victoria makes a point that if you don't revise them and then let us comment on them and then have the hearing. But I would also say it's a little more organic than that, and this may not be the end, right? So, Walter, it's your choice.
Matthew, what would you do?
I don't know what the right answer is, but just thinking aloud, by having the public hearing, we're sort of putting all the comments on the table and then consolidating that. Whereas if we don't have a public hearing, and I might be wrong, if we don't have a public hearing, we might get to a consensus amongst all of us and then go to a public hearing, and then there's a whole other direction. It might be good to gather all comments and have a comprehensive response, but I'm just speaking from the heart. That's not
a great point, but
out.
It's a little bit of a chicken and the egg, because what if you come and the public hearing prompts us to ask for significant redesign, and then does that merit another public hearing? I don't know, but go ahead, Craig. I think you had a question.
The question I have, and it's more so of an awareness. I believe this application just got approved by our planning board. So
Correct.
if
In
there
September,
are
yes.
changes or anything you alter based on that site plan, if it gets changed here, keep in mind, you have to go back to planning.
So Craig, to that point, there's already changes between the elevation the planning board approved, which didn't include an entryway in that new building, and this. So They're already have to go back to the planning. board.
That's why I'm bringing that up, because what you should do is propose to this commission based on your legal site plan approval from the planning board. That's what your proposal should be. It shouldn't be this commission suggesting what you should do to it. You have legal approval.
It's already,
That's just the recommendation for an enforcement purpose, because you're not getting anything from me until all these boards approve everything identical.
So just to summarize, and I think I understand why this is, but we are going to have to make changes based on what this board says and then probably go back to the planning board. But if you
You're
want,
aware of that, that's all.
Yeah.
I think that's both of their points. So
Yeah.
why do, what do you want to do? Get as much data as possible from us. And there is a risk that you'll have to come back to us again before you finalize and go back to the planning board? Or do you want to have one more session with us and then schedule the?
that's what we
Something
want
really
to do.
end
We want to have one more session with you. And then based on what we work out with you, we'll take that to the public hearing.
Okay, great.
Okay,
So
great.
noted. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for this.
See when you're ready. Come back.
And we'll see you next week. Or no, we'll see you in a month on January
month.
the January
Okay, great.
13th.
We'll come back
All
with
right.
even more Mansards.
A lot of Mansard. All right, great. See you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we have. We have
All right,
two
great.
applications.
We have 2 new applications. We have 555 State. I don't see Nick France on here.
So
Is there anyone here for Nick on 555?
No, I'm here for 750.
All right, then we'll go to 750.
are you 750?
Yeah.
750 Union. Oh, it's a sign, right?
Does he need to share his screen?
Yeah, I can share my screen. Okay, okay, my name is, oh, hold on one second. Get to the right spot. My name is James. I'm here from Sign Company representing Sun River Health. And they're looking to replace some signs. It's a name change. Before it was Hudson River Healthcare. Now it's Sun River Health, taking over throughout parts of New York. Let me get to the right page. I'm sorry.
The other one has those rivets running right down the center.
Right. This is the building here. We have an existing sign here that they're looking to replace. And there's also, there's not a sign there now, but they're looking to add a sign to the spot of the building here so people could see it coming from both directions. And I'll pull
The
up.
sign
this-
that you're replacing is the same size?
It might be slightly larger. I'm gonna pull up now and show you the color drawings of what they're looking to do.
See that the multi-room on the top, in case they have a bowl something.
So this is the look of the sign. It's a 30-inch, 2 foot 6 inches by 8 foot aluminum sign. So it might be slightly a little bit longer than the existing sign. The construction would be all aluminum with surface applied paint. All the logos would be painted on there. And the colors would be painted. The sign itself has a dimension of 3 inches thick where the fasteners, there would be basically a pan that kind of goes on the wall first, like an internal structure, and then the fasteners would just be from the top and the bottom, countersunk fasteners. Everything's a nice, really clean design. So this is showing the one pan. The banner, I believe, is already removed. I think that was, kind of a COVID thing, and that's been gone. And there's a sign that's in that place now that we will be removed. It's not in this spot here. They moved it over to this side to try to catch traffic as they come down. And this is the visual of the other side of the building where they're trying to catch the design is, or the traffic as well.
Looks good to me. Is there any discussion? Okay, can I have a motion to find the application complete?
Well, is this?
Oh, yes, sir.
What about the stand-up sign?
No, it's not stand up, it's the other side of the building, 2 flat against the building, right?
Oh,
Did I miss
thought
that?
it was-
The conversation, this came in because obviously our emails are down, so I haven't had an opportunity to review this. Based on the conversation with the gentleman, it was a replacement of an existing sign, size and so forth. My department is not aware of a post sign being added. There's code requirements for that, and that was never discussed. And because there's other code requirements, so the post sign you can't even review until I review it. And then this here, I don't know where on the building other than where it's going now. If it's moving on the building, we need to know that.
Can we just approve the one replacement sign that's slightly larger, if the larger size could be an issue?
It'd be okay with a little bit bigger because it's definitely not gonna be the maximum size requirement.
Okay.
But everything else has got to come up to.
So were you able to follow that? Like, we can only approve one because the application for the new sign hasn't been reviewed by code enforcement.
Okay, all right.
You want both of them? Do you want both, one of them now, or are you fine to have both together?
Let's vote one now. If we get one now approved, and then we can go back, and this way, if it doesn't meet code requirement, we can just tell them that there's only one that they're allowed.
That seems very practical. All right, do I have a motion to find the application for the one replacement sign complete? Paul and Hugh, may I have a motion to waive a public hearing and request that the city attorney issue a certificate of appropriateness for the one replacement sign? Paul, Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. Good luck, and maybe we'll see you again on that second sign. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, before we adjourn, I just wanted, since I do have the floor and I get to ask whether we're going to adjourn, I just want to say that as we come up on the end of the year and so much great work has been done, I would just like to thank those people that have supported us so well in just over this last year. I would like to thank Todd and Victoria. I've never seen such efficiency. I would like to thank Jan for the great work, which she makes this an absolute pleasure to do this in such incredible minutes.
Thank you, Jan.
I would like to thank Craig for I don't know what the standard is for excellence in code enforcement and responsiveness, but you must undoubtedly be it. I have nothing to compare it to except you, but it's amazing. And Michael is not here, but I just think that the way we're able to have these hybrid integrated meetings so well, given one's preference perhaps for completely remote, is still, it's wonderful. So, and to get Chip's opinion, because we were able to make a quorum here, is really lovely. So I would thank them all. So thank you all for your great work and making this such an important part of it and a pleasure to do.
Can we take a minute to thank you for your extraordinary leadership during the time when Phil is not here and even when he is here a little bit?
No, I'm not. I won't accept that. If I were a better person, I would either bake you all cookies or made you a star. I'm just not that guy.
You know, I'm so glad you can go to the start.
All right, motion to adjourn. Yay, all in favor, yay. All right, thank you all. Have a great holiday. See you on the 13th. Remember to look at your calendars because we have to have a quorum.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Prognosis is with the email.
Jen, do you want these before we do the show?
I think somebody would have the sort of hostage and they're not paying.
Right.